Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 25 of my 30-day Facebook Live Language Facilitation Challenge. Today's topic is live Q&A. So, I didn't bring anything spectacular as far as a language facilitation tips and tricks because I'm hoping that when we have some folks joining me today, we're going to be able to answer a few questions. And Brianna's here. Hi, Brianna. Do you have a question for me today? Brianna, while I'm getting ready, I know that a lot of people tend to watch this, and Jenna's here too. Hi, Jenna. A lot of people are going to be watching this at the replay. So here's the deal. Here's how this Q&A is going to work. So, what I'd like you to do is if you have a question, it can be a question about pretty much anything. If you have a question about your child's communication, if you have a question about intuition and how all that works, if you have a question about any of the videos that I have posted here so far. Today's 25, plus there were a few at the other, and Summer's here, and Anna's here, and Jenna's here. So, like I said, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the comments. And while it scrolls up here, then I'll be able to see how they go. And I'm taking notes when they come up because I know that sometimes with the live video, it scrolls over. And it gets fast, or I don't want to miss it. So anyway, I just so you know who I am while I'm waiting for a couple questions to come through. My name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech language pathologist, and I help parents teach their late talking children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. And I've been doing this 30-day Facebook Live challenge with the purpose of sharing with as many people as possible the importance and, I guess the realization that you as parents are the best ones to be doing language facilitation for your child. And as a speech pathologist, I've been working in the field for 30 years, and I've worked in just about every kind of system that there is. So, I've worked in schools, I've worked in private clinics, I've worked in early intervention systems, and I've done all of this in 4 different states, actually. I've also worked with seniors, I've worked in hospitals, I've done medical kinds of speech therapy, I've done behavioral kinds of speech therapy. I've worked with children with just about every kind of communication issue that you can imagine has happened in 30 years of practice in so many different locations. That's kind of what the universe has done for me, is to, you know, take me on a crazy journey as far as my, personal professional career. And my children, bless their hearts, they kind of got drug along. I've changed jobs every year or two, at least the school that I worked in or the location of my job. Every year or two, pretty much my entire career. I had, even when I worked for one company for a long period of time, it was contract work. So I was placed in all different kinds of places. So while I had one employer, I traveled, and I lived in Las Vegas, and I lived in the desert, so I know what it's like to do language facilitation when there are no therapists around. I was the only therapist for 50 miles in a desert town once. And I lived in Las Vegas, and I lived in Chicago, and I had a big practice there of early intervention. And I've worked in schools, and pretty much since the 90s, I have been a single parent. And so I've been with my kids and kind of dragging them around the country doing language facilitation so well. That we'll see. Uh-oh, Brianna says it's not working. I'm not sure what's not working. Okay, so like I said, I'm just kind of talking about myself today. And I'm really pleased that you guys are here. And I haven't had any questions yet, but I see Brienne is having a hard time. What I wanted to share too, like I said, how I got to this point is the universe has taken me on this crazy journey, and I've worked in so many different places, and I've met so many parents all over the country, and it took me about 28 years in to realize that I was doing it a little bit wrong. I was doing it like everybody else. I was sharing, I was, doing the evidence based practice that my profession expects of me. So, any speech pathologist knows that, we're licensed and we're governed by a national organization, the American Speech and Hearing Association, and they provide our certification for us to be able to do speech therapy. And it's so that we're effective as speech pathologists, and so that we understand and, work with our clients and their families in as comprehensive a way. It's a very complicated training to become a speech pathologist. My daughter's in graduate school right now going through it, and I'm kind of reliving some of those memories of grad school and all the clinicals and when I really didn't know what was going on as far as therapy. And I never really learned a whole lot much since from school and stuff. Since then I've learned everything from the families that I've worked with. So all right, I got a question. Let's get going. Laura says, my son can't pronounce many consonants like B and P. Are there any exercises to help his mouth form those sounds? He is a late talker. No delays in any areas other than expressive speech. So, all right, Laura. So the thing with sounds, it's a little bit tricky with articulation without seeing a child. When I work with families in my waves of communication, I look at some videos so that I can see some examples of how they're talking. But I guess my question is, and what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and respond to this in the comments. Over his overall speech, how intelligible would you say that his overall speech is? So, yeah, you notice the B and P sounds, but is he eliminating them? So if you can give me an example of like a word he substitutes for a word. So, example, if he says gop for bop, if he's popping bubbles, if he says op, 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 like that, or if he's saying gop, or gok, or, if he's substituting or whatever, because can't saying B's and P's could be different, because in articulation, what happens is, go ahead and put that in the comments. I know it takes a couple seconds to scroll through, so I'm just going to tell you a bit of background. So with sound problems and late talkers, we have to figure out what's the cause of that sound problem. Like in some cases, if there are ear infection issues, or fluid issues, that comes from the child not being able to hear well, and that's why their sounds are off. Also, if a child is having trouble with sounds and they have had a tongue tie, or they've been very sick and, have had like oral motor issues, tonsils, throat things, any kind of ear, nose, and throat medical intervention kind of stuff, those things affect how sound problems emerge in different ways. So you can understand if I'm not saying the sounds correct because I didn't hear them or not. So in a case like that, in any kind of sound production where kids might be saying words but aren't saying sounds. So the exercises, as far as strategies to work on B's and P's, if you're not hearing them ever, I love to use things like blowing bubbles and popping them, because it just gets your mouth doing things fun. And the other thing that's really helpful with working with B's and P's is when you use a mirror and you watch your mouth. And make it super easy. So Laura says he's replacing sounds with D and T. Also can't say K, so dote for coat, dow for cow. Sorry, can't think on the spot. I get it. I know. I'm trying to figure that out. So just hit his hearing and ears, chest, everything. Was looking longer thing. Everything's fine. Good. All right. So it probably in those cases is going to be, an experience thing. And those would be things that we have to, replace. If he's putting a sound there, then, it's all about in working with sounds, looking at your face and using as many kinds of input as possible to benefit you. So sometimes in the case of B's and P's, it's a really good to look in a mirror, or you can even use video. So if you're next to your kiddo and you're practicing a word, like if he's saying, I'm trying to think of a D for B, like daddy for baby. Okay, that's pretty common one if a kid's doing that kind of thing. So I think about, even if you look at my mouth, I put my lipstick on today so you can see the big difference when I look at my mouth and I say daddy versus saying baby. And just by looking and focusing on that and you saying it, so you look in the mirror next to him, or you each have a mirror in your hand and you look at yours and he looks at his and you say daddy, baby. I heard baby. Look at baby. Just kind of having him look at your mouth. In addition to hearing it, because when you don't, and here's the number one rule, and this was the biggest language facilitation strategy I gave to my mom, who's working with her little girl Summer. She's here, I know. And this was a biggie for them, was it's really important when your kids make articulation errors that are consistent, that you let them know when they get it wrong by reminding them that it's different. So, when Laura says, thanks, I'm glad to help. So, yeah, so if you hear, you're working on a sound that you're focusing on, kind of like this, or a p, 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 or a b, b, b. If you look and you point and you kind of call attention to that and you say it, and then you say, baby, and your child says, daddy, I was like, ooh, I didn't see your lips go together. And so it's just kind of something different to think about then, because they might not hear it as well. So that's a good strategy for sounds, working on B's. I haven't had any other questions yet, but I see that Keely is here. Thanks for joining me, Keely. Keely says she needs help with stuttering. So Keely, you'll have to tell me who is stuttering. Is it you who is stuttering, or is it your child who is stuttering? And if you can give me a little bit of a circumstance, like I stutter when blank. I stutter when this happens most often. If you can phrase it like that and put it in the comments, then I can do it. And I see Brianna's back. And I gotta good. I'm so glad you guys are here for this live. It's, I do offer free language facilitation strategy sessions for parents who are interested in knowing more about waves of communication and how I work intuitively with families. And kind of like this interesting question from Keely about stuttering is one that stuttering is one of those things that is very ambiguous in trying to address. And for me, with any kind of language or speech facilitation, it's all about using your resources to understand the root of the communication issue that you're having. So, sorry about that, everybody. Got a little distracted by somebody trying to PM me. Yes, put the question here, and so I can see. All right, here's a question. Kaylee says, okay, my 3-year-old, okay. All right, I got a couple questions. All right, Brianna's back. I got it. All right, and Melwish, I'm going to put your question on hold because Kaylee was asking me about stuttering, so I'm going to talk about that first. So Kaylee says, my 3-year-old started sentences and staying stuck on a word. So probably starting to put some words together. She's had speech problems before. All right, so Kaylee, she is saying words, but she's getting stuck on a word. So maybe she's 3. So I guess what circumstances is she getting stuck on a word? Like I said, if you can say when she's telling me blank sentence, like when she says I want a cookie, she gets stuck on I, or when she's excited, she gets stuck. I need to know a little bit more before I can answer that question. And, oh, whoops. Can't touch anything too long. All right. And Moish says, my son, ASD, 7 years, can sing songs but can't talk. I need help how to make him talk. All right. So, Moish, that's what I do with my Waves of Communication program. And what we need to figure out in a case like yours is if your child can communicate using something like songs. We have to think about what your child is using. If he's already 7 years old, then he's going to be communicating with you somehow. I mean, you've made it through 7 years trying to understand what he wants. And if he can sing songs, that means that he has what it takes physiologically to say words. So what we need to do, what we would do in a case like yours is I would take a look at your circumstances and give you the exact strategies to help you overcome what is holding him back from using words. So in your case, a language facilitation plan would be my biggest recommendation, because what we need to figure out in your case, Melwish, and if you want to post another comment, that's fine too. Let me know how is he communicating what he wants right now. Just put that in a comment and I'll answer that. All right, so the next one is Keely says, and Summer says, love your story, what you're doing, found Grandma's coming in a week, so I have a question. Okay, so Summer, I have to get to your question. And Kaylee says, example, like, I want. Okay, good. There we go. Very good. Now I get it. All right, so if she is using a little phrase or a sentence or something like that to typically get what she wants right now, I guess that's the other question I should ask you. Anybody who is going to put a question, if you can put a comment in there about how your child is communicating right now, if it's taking you there, if it's singing songs, if it's pointing, if it's jibber jabber language. I need to know that, because then I can understand a little bit about where you are right now, on the fly like this. So I got to have a little bit of background, a little bit of example of this is how my child's communicating now, so that I can help see maybe what's, causing their resistance. All right, so in Kaylee's case, her daughter, she thinks it's a fluency problem, and fluency means the cadence of speech, and that's what stuttering is, a disfluency. So instead of saying, I want a cookie, please, Mommy, her daughter's saying, I want, and so what's probably happening is that I want is one chunk of communication, of language, of somehow to get something. So, and it means more than just I want. It means I want what you have and all of that, except for she doesn't necessarily have rapid access to those other vocabulary in the same way that she has access to I want, because you know that that's what it means. And it's almost like, okay, so here's an analogy. This is the best way I can explain some of this stuff. So everybody has file cabinets of vocabulary in their brain. And I think that a lot of late talkers who have trouble with accessing vocabulary and can have disfluencies, like getting stuck on a little phrase, it's almost like her brain needs a little bit more time. The vision I just got in my head was her with the file cabinet going, and that's what I want is sort of that feeling. And then eventually when she gets it open, she can access cookie. So it might take her another second to be able to access that other vocabulary. So, here's another question. Okay, I see whoever sent me the question in there. I'll have to get to you going. So I hope that that's helping you, Kaylee. I think that that's what's going on in your case, you'll need to work on helping her access that vocabulary a little bit easier. Hang on, I need a drink. In finding ways, your strategies would involve things like helping her access that a little bit easier and maybe replacing that I want as her primary language code into a different sort of phrase, like if it's cookie, we're talking about cookie please, and coaching her into using a different sort of phrase to sort of break that stuck record, drawer stuck. Like whenever I use the I want thing, the drawer doesn't work very well. But whenever I use the cookie please, it moves a little easier. So sometimes just giving her an alternative way to ask for things like that. And the other thing is making sure that my nose itched, so they made me that. Hopefully that will work for you. All right, so hopefully that helped you, Kaylee. All right, scrolling back a little bit now. I've got Melwish. I'm going to see if you did. He normally takes me to the place by showing me what he wants. All right, so that's very common. The strategies that would I'd be focusing on in cases like you would be to help him understand how to use real language in those moments. So as soon as he's coming to get you, you have to intuitively understand what he's trying to tell you in that moment. And then when I see video where I can see exactly what he's using to communicate, even if it's a pull, if there's any kind of verbal language or any kind of requesting that he's done successfully for you, we would glom onto that. And also, in your case, I would want to look at what's going on at school, if he's going to a school program at all, what they're using for requesting there, because sometimes those strategies may or may not have effect on what you can use at home. Sometimes the kids aren't successful at school because they're using a highly structured approach. But if you can get them successful at home with requesting using natural things, it actually spills over into the school. So in your case, when you have a child who's not, I see he's using his hands and humming sounds. So he's starting to come up, what's happening is your son is starting to come up with his own version of communication. And it is a combination of songs, taking you, humming, gestures, kind of trying to use his hands like that, because no one program, no one kind of communication has been successfully taught to him. So he's trying to figure out himself how to use his resources with using words as the last resort, because most late talkers who don't like using words, who are choosing to use behaviors and sounds and things like that to communicate, for some reason they don't like using words. And that's going to be a fundamental strategy that you need to work on too. You really need a plan, to get you going, because it's been other families who I've worked with, like my family lives in Australia. They had a son very much like yours, and in 1 week, they showed him how, in every moment of your day, while you're taking him to places and doing things, exactly how to help him how to do that. And that's what my language facilitation plan would do, and that's how you can help overcome that. So, yep, because that's what he's using now, and yep, taking his own language. She's self-talking and is using his own language. So instead of your son developing the language system and how to communicate with you and you trying to figure out what he's using, you need to take charge and develop the language system and give him the language system and the words he needs to use in all of those circumstances. And that's what I help parents do, is show you exactly how to do that. From the time you hang up the phone with your first language facilitation plan, you get going. Summer knows. She did it too. So, okay, now Summer was my next question, and she says, I love your story and what you're doing. Thank you. I found out Grandma's coming in a week, so I have a question. Violet still gets really excited. Oops, I'm looking at the comment. Why did it go away? I want to see more. No. Let me click it that way. We're still working, slowing down, but no, I can't, it won't let me look at it. This crazy Facebook thing. It just is showing me you, not the comment. So, if, I'm gonna guess this, and if I'm wrong, throw a comment in, Summer. Oh, so you said if he's homeschooling, then Maywish says he's homeschooling. So then you really need to get a plan so that you can teach him how to do it, because you can teach him how to do it while you're doing his academics. Because if you're teaching him academics at home, then you definitely can teach him to use language. Definitely. Okay, so I think you were talking about Grandma's coming and she still gets really excited. You're working on slowing down, but what I'm guessing you're going to say, knowing how excitable she gets, and if I'm wrong, let me know. But what I'm going to suggest to you is a little bit of prep work for when Grandma's coming. And you can even practice and role play a little bit. If you do it on the Skype with her, and, you even sort of preset the intention for, we're going to have so much fun, and even if, I know that you guys have been working on your own calming and your own breathing and your own kinds of energy work that way, beef that up a little bit. Do an extra breathing session, do some baby yoga, that kind of stuff that's just kind of get her practicing being in a calmer mindset throughout the time. So, when you know that excitable times are coming, that's when you kind of have to pull out of your language facilitator bag of tricks a little extra grounding time. It's just kind of like when we get to that full moon and things get a little nutty and, the energy is high, and that high energy isn't always happy energy. Sometimes it's explosive energy too, and that's when sometimes grounding and those kinds of things are good. So, getting outside and burning off some of that energy, but in Violet's case, it has to come here inside centered for her. So just breathing, just, really keeping it centered before Grandma comes. And, yeah. So, all right, let's see. I hope I got that right. Tracy says, my child's communicating with me by taking me to things. We get very few verbal communications from him aside from bye-bye. How can I get more from him? Tracy is my new language facilitator mom, and you are going to get the exact strategies and how to do that. And in fact, this week on our call, I am going to tell you exactly how to get whatever you're getting now. And even if your child isn't using much as far as verbal communication, and I know in Tracy's case, she's got a twin to compare. So, anyway, I hope it's not, I see somebody saying crazy pixel. The replay is going to be available too, so you can always come back and check again. And my eyes just got teary. Okay, so anyway, in Tracy, in your case, what we're really going to focus on is it might even need to step back to a nonverbal response that is a bridge towards a verbal response. So, because if he's not using words at all or not even really connecting with you as well as you'd like to be, I see there many late talkers and spirit kid kind of kids withdraw because they are avoiding language. They are avoiding it, and because they don't like it. And introverted kids, I just had this conversation this morning while I got my hair cut, that a lot of introverted kids do avoid words because they don't want to have conversation. Think about an introverted adult. They're not going to be the one who's chatting up the clerk at the grocery store. they're going to go, they're going to do their thing. They're not talking to the person sitting next to them on the bus. They're going to be reading their book or on their phone or in their own world. And introverted kids are like that too. They're like, if I have to learn language, then people are going to want to talk to me, and I don't want people to talk to me, which might be how they feel a lot of the time, but that it isn't true, because language is going to serve them in so many ways. Just because you can talk to people doesn't mean you have to. And that's one of the things that's important for introverted kids, like Tracy's little guy, to understand, is that it's safe, is that language is safe. And we also talked about, sorry, my eyes tearing, hang on. Oi. I think I touched it with makeup on it or something. All right. Anyway, so, the other thing is that kids don't talk, and Carolyn, another one of my moms, her son's problem was that he was so, his confidence about using words was so low that he was afraid to do it wrong. And that's what happens sometimes with kids who are in highly structured therapy, in ABA therapy, because unless they do it perfectly, they don't get the reward. And when they don't get the reward, then they think they did it wrong, because it's not happy, it's not fun. And, the difference between that and the kind of language facilitation work that Tracy is going to start doing is going to be natural, fun, and we're going to reward the try, the attempt, the even inclination towards language. We're going to get so excited in a way that he can respond to, and have him see success so quickly that he's going to want to start to use words more. And that's what it takes, really, everybody, is once your child enjoys something. It's like Summer with her daughter. She's doing basically speech therapy level, evidence-based practice stuff that I coached her in how to do. And her daughter wants to do it 24/7. That's why her speech is improving. Her articulation and phonology are improving, and her rate of speech, everything. They do it 24/7 because they have so much fun with it. And that's what it is. And what's fun for one child is not fun necessarily for another child. And especially if you have twins, you understand this. And you know that you have to figure out what is fun and motivating for your child, and nobody knows that better than you as a parent. So Tracy, we are going to get you guys going. I have really, really good expectations for you. And that's the other thing. Once you're in my program, I never let you fail. Like, you're in with me, you get a plan, I take you the entire process. So that's the whole thing, is, we're going to get it happening. No matter what, I will come up with every strategy on the planet to get you going and get you doing it. And that's what's going to be important. So I can't wait to get started, Tracy. All right. And Brianna says, loving all these tips. Yay. I'm glad. I figured that other people would be able to benefit too. Now, hang on a second. I got a PM from somebody that I have to read really quick here. Oh boy. Okay, let me read. It's long. I have a question. Granddaughter had 1 hour 24 EEG in February. A pediatric neurologist said her brain waves were slower than normal and she would never catch up to her peers. Also, she had some words early but lost them. Sorry, my nose is itching. She would also mimic us early on, but that also went away. I have a video of her at 14 months saying, "Hello, my baby," and to her own image on the screen. Every time I replay that video, she lights up and repeats it back to herself in the playback, but each time it is less discernible. Her enunciation is getting progressively worse. Other than that response, everything else is a series of grunts. For up, F for help, and O for out. I guess what I'm wondering is, do you have faith this will work for me? Wow. Okay, so here's my question for you, Carla. I'm going to close this real quick so that I can see the whatever. My feeling about your situation is, number one, in order for a child to be able to improve their communication from what it is to what they have you know, to making progress, okay? They have to have physiology that allows for them to do new learning, and they have to have physiology that allows them to be able to, physiology meaning neurology, I guess, as far as able to do new learning. And also physiology here, ear, nose, and throat wise, to be able to say the sounds. And that physiology may also be neurologically related, because when children are unable to use words, um, sort of physiologically, I mean, if your arm can't move because you don't have muscles for it, all you can do is potentially physiologically, increase those muscles. However, if your arm isn't moving because your brain is not coordinating and communicating between the motor cortex part of your brain and the physiology of your body to actually move your limbs and face and all of those things to in order to make speech, um, then then no amount of coaching or teaching you do is going to be able to help your child overcome that physiology. Now, if your child is able to neurologically learn to do things with their mouth, so my test for you is this, that you go and try this with your child and see if you can do it. If you can get your child to learn animal sounds, different animal sounds, monkey, ooh, ooh, ee, really be as specific as you can about animal sounds. It's a little bit less intimidating than trying to say words, and it's sort of a sound production thing. And if you can teach your child to say new animal sounds and even the animal names like monkey, ooh, ooh, just as a fun thing to practice to try to teach your child, then there is a chance that you can teach your child to use words to communicate, because that sort of little test you can do for your own self is going to let you know, number one, that you as a parent have the ability to teach your child to do something that requires speech. And two, your child has the ability to learn what you're teaching them. So whenever there's a neurological question that comes into play, I'm not here doing comprehensive neurological evaluations and diagnosis of anything. In fact, I tell people that, unlike the profession of speech pathology says, I really am not, it's not unlike, it is. What the profession of speech pathology says is that I'm not really permitted to work with a child unless I do a comprehensive evaluation with that child to determine the kinds of strategies and, whatever implementation is appropriate. Because a comprehensive evaluation is necessary. So what I do here with waves of communication and why that's different is because I don't necessarily need to have numbers from a standardized test to be able to tell me if a child is able to do something. Their ability to do something is the gauge that I use, and I get that information from the parents who talk to me. So like I said, if you tell me that your child can say, in Sumei's case, 41 different animal sounds, and no frog says ribbit, then her son easily could learn to say the words that he needs to use to tell her all of the things that she wants him to talk to her about. And in fact, in just a couple of weeks, she's been able to teach him to say many things. In fact, even create PowerPoint presentations where he talks about 41 different animals in phrases and sentences that he dictates himself. So, like I said, it's not it's not the way that other speech pathologists work, and it's not the way that the American Speech and Hearing Association says that speech therapy goes. And that's why what this is, what I do, what language facilitation is, waves of communication is teaching parents to be language facilitators. So that you are not a speech pathologist, you don't have to rely on standardized tests, you don't even have to rely on a diagnosis. All you need to do is you as a parent have to understand if your child can learn to say things and follow directions, and if you as a parent can teach your child to do anything. If you can teach your child to pick up their toys, if you can teach a child to put something in the sink, even if you have to hold their hand and help them put it in the sink, if they'll do that for you, then you can teach them to use words because you know that they can say words. And it's just a matter of having access to the right words at the right time and starting from where you are now. So let me look through. I'm looking to see. I see a couple more questions. Amy says, oh, sorry. Okay. Amy says, hi, Amy. Amy is my beautiful, wonderful acupuncture, healing, medicine, dietary recommender. She's the person who keeps my body healthy. Thank you, Amy. And I'm telling you what, it involves Eastern medicine, Western knowledge, Northern hemisphere, Southern, the planets. We talk about everything. Amy is an amazing healer, and I wouldn't be physiologically and energetically the person I am without you. Thank you, Amy. Okay, so I hope things changed out. And my cousin Lisa's here. Hi, Lisa. And Shafak is here. Hi. Hi. And Brianna again says hi. And thank you. I'm glad that you got Mewish. I'm glad that you got some help from that. And Brianna says, Jack saw a cat book at the store last night and goes, meow, cat. Yay! Let's just say that book came home with us. So excited. Excellent. Animals are the best way to get animal sounds, are the best way. In fact, that's how Carolyn, the other day, her little guy was so afraid to even open his mouth. He was so self-conscious about sounds and making sounds, and maybe I don't even understand why. I mean, it was a little weird, and all we did was start to have fun with it, and I was like, lion, roar, and he looked at me like, wow, that was pretty fun, and then he did it, and his mom was like, and it was all about just having fun. We were just having fun. And Donna's here. Hi, Donna. And Donna was so important. She helped my daughter. She facilitated language with my daughter. Donna's an amazing language facilitator, and I helped her son learn to talk, and he is 20 years old. Mwah! That was 100 years ago. My goodness. And he's a gigantic football player guy. Hi, Donna. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. So if I take the book, he started labeling him. If I ask him, what are you doing? Nothing's coming out. Well, and it's because, Melwish, it's all about, like I said, in your case, we need to move through strategies. You really need a plan. You really need a plan. All right. And Donna says hi. All right. So let me look again. I want to see if anybody sent me any private message with questions. No, I don't see that. Okay, so getting back to you all. All right, so like I said, I think, today I don't see any more questions for today, so I think I'm going to wrap this up and let you know that, like I said, what I do with my program is help parents move their kids from nonverbal communication into verbal communication. And late talking is really just a term that means not talking yet. And, that's, I guess, the message that I really want you guys to understand, that, if your child can learn to use words, if your child can learn, like in Moish, if your child can say all the things that he's saying, I know that you can teach him how to use language. But you need very specific strategies. So, you have to know exactly what to do to get your child from where they are to where they're going. And that's what I do with my language facilitation plan. And this plan is a plan for you. This is a parent plan. And yeah, here's the other thing. I just talked to a family the other day who has twins, and both of her twins are late talking. One of them has been diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and the other one has not, but also has some phonological problems. And because she is, dealing with two boys, I am giving her, she said, do I have to do two different plans because I have two different kids and they're communicating at different levels? And I said, no, no, no. This is one plan. This is one family plan that you get to work with both of your boys. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to help her, because one of her boys is talking better than the other one. I'm going to teach her how to use her boy who is talking, get his language really on target and doing super well, and teach him how to show his twin brother, because that's the thing about twins. They have a connection that's so tight, and if one twin can connect with the other one, then sometimes that's a really powerful thing. So every parent that I work with, I'm going to use every session that you want to know. And if you want to get a language facilitation strategy session with me, a free language facilitation strategy session, you can send me a private message, and I can give you a link to my schedule. And I can, because we've had a chat, but, when you do, like I said, when you do have questions about whether in our first session, we talk it through so that by the time we're finished with that first conversation, you're going to know whether you can be a language facilitator and your child knows how. That's why I do a free session with every parent, because it's your plan, it's you doing the work, and I need to make sure before I even talk about the program with you that you are capable, willing, and your child is also capable, and maybe not so willing, but I can get you willing. That's the thing. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. What a fun live. I think this might be something I might do on a regular basis. If that's something that you think might be interesting, please comment about that. Like, if you think you'd like to see me do a, every other week kind of Q&A thing. I know that there are a number of people like Brianna who have been able to use these videos to get their, I see a like about that, that have been able to get their kids starting to use words using the tips and tricks, and just, I think the mindset and sort of way of thinking about it, I see a lot of likes about that. So, and I see that people are feeling hopeful. Mwah. That's what it is. That's what it's all about, because I know that I worked in the system for so long. And here's the other thing that I guess before I let you go today, I'm going to reach out. I see that there's 6 folks watching, and anybody who watches this replay, if you can share this video on your feed, if I was able to help you today, if you could share this video and talk about how I work and the kinds of, way of thinking that my videos present. I'm going to also have the link to my YouTube channel in the description here. Any of my videos you can help share, get the message out, because I want parents to be hopeful. I don't want you to be stuck because a therapist said, I can't connect with your child, so I can't teach them. Because you can connect with your child. You can. And language facilitator parents do. And they get their kids starting new words in 1 week. And that's what's just so phenomenal and amazing about it. So I know I've taken up a lot of time today live. Thank you for sharing your Saturday with me. If it's morning, afternoon, wherever you are, I know that I've had some folks who are even in other countries stop in today. So thank you again, everybody, for joining me. And you know what? The 30-day challenge isn't up yet. Tomorrow is going to be another very fun, very cool language facilitation topic. So share this video, send me a private message, visit my website, wavesofcommunication.com. There's a free class that talks all about how I do my Waves of Communication system. So even if you're intimidated and you don't want to schedule a call yet, at the end of that class, you have the opportunity to schedule a call too. My schedule's there. I want to be as accessible as I can to people and let everybody know that you can be language facilitators, because if it isn't fun, it isn't fun. And you as parents know your child best, and you know what it takes to get them to have fun with language. And that's why you're better at it than anybody. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again for joining me. Mwah!